MP, welcome to Mint. Thank you for being on. What is going on?
Hi, thank you for having me. How are you?
I'm feeling good. I'm stoked to have you a part of season six on all things creator economy and where blockchain data fits into the picture. So I think a good place to start, MP, is how did you get your start into crypto, let alone Web3? We can start there and we can work our way forward.
For sure. So my start in crypto was basically because I needed a job. It was very simple. I was working in luxury before, and I wasn't really comfortable with the way that I saw business was, happening in luxury. And I quit that job, and I really needed another job to pay the rent. And one of my friends, he was working at a tech company. I didn't know which kind of tech. And I went to meet my friend and his boss because I was part of a sort of like a big sister program. So I took one of the kids that I was watching to learn about technology. And this guy taught him how blockchains work. And I was like, this is incredible. I'm really interested. I already knew about crypto and everything. But I thought this guy was explaining it really well. And turns out the guy was the founder of Ethereum, Gavin Wood. So of course he knew his deal. And from there, I was like, actually, I loved everything that, this guy told me. I told my friend, I'm Argentinian, so I could see a lot resonating with me with regards to transparency and traceability and, all like a parallel economy that was able to, help us, overcome inflation. So I told my friend and I told him to let me know when there was a job opening. And there was a job opening. I started as an assistant. Didn't last very long there because I was already senior when I started in 2017. And I started developing my career with Polkadot. At first, I worked there until early 2018, where I fell in love with the Ethereum community and I started applying for Ethereum jobs. Then shortly I started working for Golem, which is one of the oldest Ethereum projects. And
Mm-hmm.
from there, they gave me a lot of freedom to start discovering my own path. And my own path had to do with also starting here in Berlin a nonprofit to organize hackathons. And the hackathons, usually because I'm very interested in arts as well, had to have a cultural element. So that's a little bit what led me to NFTs. And it was a hobby until, and I wrote a couple of papers on the topic as well because I'm a researcher. And it was really a hobby. It was something that I did out of passion until come 2020, I was still writing the second paper, struggling to sort of update it, and I realized there was like some shifts happening in the NFT sphere.
Mm.
So I told my co-writers, they were like, "Oh yeah, but uh, let's see what happens." And then I kept thinking, I was like, I have to take all this knowledge and start a business, because it would be such a shame. So I met Trent, the co-founder of JPEG, over Twitter DMs. He's a DeFi guy. I've been in DeFi as well. We had art in common, and he DM'd me. We started exchanging like cool artworks, and then he was like, "Hey, I want to start a gallery. Want to join?" And I'm like, "Of course." And that's also how I met the other founder, Sam. Uh, I still had a job, so I worked two jobs for about a year, until I, got confident enough to start
Mm.
working full time in my own business, and that's where I am right now.
So, how has the industry changed, you think, since when you initially got started around the 2017 era to where are we now, 2022?
So the first thing is the obvious thing. When I started, everyone knew each other by first name, and we were
Uh-huh.
like what 100. And everything was very personal, and if you had any problem with the platform, you would go straight to the founder, because usually that was like the kind of feedback loop that was that existed. We were just like a few of us. And of course, with regards to tooling, it has evolved so much and in such a rapid pace that you're not able really to track down anymore the progress, and you're also not able to track down anymore the new products that resemble others that are like sort of sub forks and everything. So it's really interesting. It's the fact of the matter is that in 2017 and in 2018, our dream was to hit mainstream with our apps, the apps that we were building, that were decentralized, that were self-sovereign, and all the nice things. And I really couldn't have expected that crypto would go mainstream, thanks to NFTs propelling that. And that's a really big not change, but a surprise, a positive one, because the apps that we were building were clunky, are still clunky. We needed an easier product. We didn't think it was NFTs, but here we are.
It's actually crazy, because another question I have for you is, you are in the Berlin crypto scene, and the European crypto scene differs from any other crypto scene worldwide. When I got started in 2017, I had this itch to scratch to try to find work in Europe as well. I didn't end up going to Berlin. I was hanging around like in Switzerland and studying over there for a little bit. And the Europeans are just built a little different, I would argue. How do you kind of like make sense of all the innovation, all the activities, specifically in crypto at Berlin, and what is that energy like?
So I'm born and raised in Argentina, so I guess I'm also built different than the Americans and Europeans. But I'll try my best. So of course, here we have a strong work-life balance, but that doesn't mean that Europe is not innovating. Europe is also a little bit more bureaucratic with regards to innovation, and because of the European Union, so everything goes a little bit slower, I would say. But there has always been something really positive about Europe, is that it's a union, like everyone knows. But this union allows you to, be very flexible when you start, a new project, a new technology with regards to, where to set up your business. Because, regulations differ. There's like some overarching ones, but they differ country to country. And there's a lot of and even, if, for example, Switzerland is a completely different story, and you would know it because you were there. We still have a lot of treaties, so everything is easy for us. Switzerland is exceptional because with regards to crypto projects and innovation, they are the place that basically started it all with regards to regulations. It's a fantastic place. There's a canton name called Zug. And Zug was the home of the very early projects, including Ethereum, which set up there because of the favorable conditions, both regulatory and for tax reasons as well. And Zug has has found a fantastic business, and is aware that they are a fantastic ground for innovation. So everything in Zug caters the crypto business in a really good way. So, you have the best lawyers there that are, have been with Ethereum from the start. And they're the same lawyers where I can go if I need something or if I need to start my business, because, the relationships have been built. And we also have the bank, several banks and management companies, and everything. It's basically a place to set up your blockchain in a box project. So that's really good. But I do agree that because Europeans tend to have a better, I want to say better is such a bad word, a different work-life balance than Americans, and this regulatory stuff that tends to be very bureaucratic, then it does go slower. That's something that Europeans wouldn't like to tell you, but I'm not, I'm Argentinian, so I'm gonna tell it to you. And how do I start it, and how did I feel it? Basically, I am more on the side of working very hard, and it's just in my older years in blockchain that I started taking weekends, for example. So yeah, I just don't sleep like the rest of you.
That makes a lot of sense. I would argue the same thing. When I was working and studying over there, the work-life balance was completely different than that of, let's say, I don't know, America and the States. But enough about Europe really quick, okay? I want to talk more about you deciding to try to build a business in Web3 and falling back on the gallery business, right? On token curated registries, which is a lot of the foundation of JPEG. So I think this is a good starting point to kind of introduce JPEG. And what is JPEG? Like what do we need to know about JPEG? More specifically, also, what is your role at JPEG?
So I am the co-founder of JPEG. I also do the communications, I do operations, I do a bunch of different things. Trent is stronger on product, and Sam, the other co-founder, he's stronger on what's artistic advisory, because he's straight up from the art world into crypto. So, we have different roles, but we sort of complement each other. So basically, JPEG is an NFT curation protocol. And what does that mean? That we are building infrastructure, a cultural infrastructure, to support the whole NFT ecosystem. So what we're building right now is, first of all, we have an interface that's a user-facing one that allows people to go into JPEG and curate their own exhibitions with NFTs they own and with NFTs they don't own. Generally, they don't own them. You can also set up your own storefront as well, and do a bunch of different things, because it's basically a customizable space a la Squarespace, where you can create many things with NFTs. But the cool thing is what happens underneath all of that. Every JPEG exhibition is stored permanently on Arweave. So the on-chain exhibition history and that which is on-chain provenance history becomes a very important data point that we're hoping is a primitive for the NFT space. On the on other spectrum of JPEG, but it's it's similar and it's totally complementary, but it's a different piece of technology, are the registries. And the registries are basically groups of NFTs that are crowdsourced by people and that can be ordered by a particular topic. For example, X copy NFTs, or super rare NFTs. And this kind of ordering that's going to be crowdsourced, this is not shipped. The exhibitions are shipped already and live for a year, and registries will come very soon, by the way. So all of these will start to create new primitives and new ways of seeing NFTs, of stratifying the space, of discovering the NFTs, and we hope we will create very interesting data sources as well for people to inform their work.
So that's why I wanted to feature JPEG in season 6, because a lot of season 6 are primarily, it's about blockchain data, okay? And we talked about blockchain data in season 5 a little bit across different speakers and different guests that were on, but I wanted to have you on specifically because I think there's something interesting going on behind token curated registries, and I'm trying to understand what role do they play in the creator economy at large. What's your perspective on that?
So maybe a little bit of background on token curated registries for the people that have not heard of them. Basically, token curated registries, we didn't invent them. They weren't for NFTs as well. They were invented around 2017 probably. And the first use case was for verification of ERC20 tokens. Back then, it was the NFT, the ICO boom, and everyone was minting shitcoins. Everything was very messy. People didn't know which ones were fraud, which ones were good, which ones had, stable development. They didn't know anything at all because research was also very confusing, as it has always been. So this idea of token curated registries came about, and token curated registries for NFTs, for ERC20s, I keep on confusing, was basically lists of tokens that were, where people would have to stake another token that was native to the TCR. And that staking would ensure the person was a good actor and that was submitting truthful information. Of course, in a highly speculative market where the only thing that matters, and now we have found out that it's not all about the tech, but it's all about numbers going up or down. When there's a market, the token will continue living. So there was not really a use case for ERC20s and TCRs, but there is a very solid use case in NFTs. Why? Because NFTs are actually very versatile objects. They're cultural, they're financial, they are anything you want them to be. They can be property titles, they can be essays as well, as Mirror is thinking of doing. And all of these creates an endless supply of NFTs. And where do they all go? Probably to OpenSea. Without correct indexing, without correct metadata, and everything, is impossible to be correct here. Yeah, it's a mess. So that's where we come in, hoping that, we deliver these lists that serve as primitives and that people can actually use them. How can you be able to use them within the creative economy? That's a great question that I look forward to for people to identify, because I think that the best way to discover your product market fit is actually when when people start interacting with your tech. But some of the more practical use cases that come to mind are, for example, are you a curator and you would like to create an exhibition and find out, a particular find several NFTs that might be interesting to your practice, but it's not possible to find them on OpenSea. Or, you're looking for NFTs from a particular period of time, from a particular day that, something happened in crypto and you want to see what NFTs accompanied that event. Or, you want to surface the NFTs from a very prolific artist that has minted throughout several platforms and it's impossible to find them otherwise. So there's many use cases. People can also use them, who uses discovery and archives with regards to the traditional art world? Curators, of course, as I mentioned, critics, other museums, researchers, students, basically anyone that wants to do research needs to serve themselves from archives, and so far we don't have those. Registries actually provide you with that sort of ordering that resembles an archive.
So if you look at like Web2 registries, so companies like Google and Yelp, they do a great job at curating a list of either search results or restaurants, but why is there a need to decentralize this process?
So first of all, we are building Web3, and we think that Google is, it's not something that we want to mimic, because everything is closed source. They also, God knows what they actually do to your brain, and it has not gone so well for humans and Web2, right? Data management is also, another murky topic. So I think it makes sense because, first of all, registries are crowdsourced. So there's no algorithm dictating the taste making and the archiving. It's other people like you and me that are interested on pushing this space forward. So that creates there's always certain bias on everything, but that creates a better one. Then for sure that, having everything traceable on the blockchain or on a decentralized database that's visible to all is helpful for many reasons. But, I guess it talks about the point that information, at least in my opinion and in the opinion of a lot of people in Web3, should be free and openly accessible. So, we believe the same at JPEG. So we're building all transparent infrastructure that will be open source in order to, continue adding positively to the space. And yeah, I guess it's about knowing what lays underneath and having control. That already makes it better.
I agree. I think there's beauty behind being able to curate something as a community, and having like aligned incentives and doing that type of action is something that we're not strangers to in Web3, and we're seeing these use cases kind of being applied across different activities. I think TCRs are no different. And I want to ask you, based on a tweet that Vitalik Buterin kind of set out or published in November of 2018, he basically tweeted that TCR designs should take more care to accommodate the value of specialists in information gathering. How do you actually design a system while considering those accommodations? And two, how do you quantify the value of a specialist, for example?
That's such a great one. You have to send it to me later on.
I will.
Because I haven't thought about that Twitter in many years. It's excellent, actually. The first thing is that we don't hope to close our TCRs to specialists. I think that the TCRs of before, for ERC20s, maybe needed, experts in crypto economy and experts in, software development to understand, what was a good token with regards to the technology that it was supporting or not. We think that we can crowdsource that expertise from people that have a genuine interest on pushing the NFT space forward, from people that believe, like us, that NFTs are cultural objects and should be treated with the gravitas they deserve. And furthermore, we're also not building monolithic registries, but we're allowing people to create their own. So that should help. Another important thing is that obviously we will have some sort of governance system for people to be able to vote which registries should be created, which registries should not, which is spam as well, because spam will happen in with the state of the NFT ecosystem. If they're dropping shitty NFTs into your wallet all the time, we will also get spammed. Everyone will get spammed. So we really need to ensure that there's a proper reputation and governance system to make sure that the people that are, curating these lists are not only good actors, but also they're just not bots. So yeah, I guess that's the part of the expertise, and the part of rewards. I guess that will come naturally. So far at JPEG, of course, we have flirted with ideas of having a token to incentivize people, but so far we really want to test if this curating thing and this register creation thing and the governance is something that people will need and use before introducing any kind of incentivization, because otherwise we will get to the place where a lot of DAOs are right now, which is really unfortunate, where people join the DAO and expect immediate retribution for like either minimum task or no tasks. And we don't want to create that. We learned, and some of us are part of DAOs as well, and we learn from that, and we believe that there should be another way. And DAOs are also learning, for what it's worth. They have strengthened their measures with regards to contributions and everything.
So With that being said, why don't you think NFT registries will sort of undergo the same downfall as ERC20 curated lists?
Because NFTs are much more rich in, by their own right. They can be so many things. They definitely need to be archived. They definitely need to be ordered as well. And there's much more. I would say that from 2017 to now, there's so much more fraud and forgery as well. NFTs can, a lot of people have fallen into buying, an NFT that, was just a JPEG with a different NFT. They need a lot of infrastructure to support them, and we weren't ready for this explosion that we have right now.
What are some of the major problems that face, JPEG when trying to build an NFT-based TCR? Like, what are some of the most notable obstacles that come to mind?
The first obstacle that comes to mind is that no one has ever done this before.
Okay.
At least not with NFTs. So that's pretty hard, And also adapting the early prototypes and ideas of TCRs into, our ecosystem, and making it simple first and foremost, because it was like, back then I didn't understand TCRs, and probably now I also don't. And adapting it and making it easier and more playful, and making sure that people are really gonna, understand the whole purpose behind our registries. I think that's the main challenge. Obviously, designing any kind of governance and reputation system is a very hard challenge, because first of all, you don't want to end up with something that resembles Web2. If you design a wrong governance system, you can always fix it. So that's great, but you can't really fix toxic traits that you're growing on people. So that's, making sure that we're not creating bad habits. It's a really big discussion point in the team. And with regards to the technological challenges, the more nitty-gritty challenges, I wouldn't be able to speak for my colleagues. I'm the one that's not a dev. But I think, and having been on teams that have built things that they have never built before in my previous jobs, I think that it's always the same, it takes longer than expected. There's a lot of micro pivots going on. You always have this doubt whether people will use it or not, whether what you're building makes sense. You always, the challenge of having things sufficiently decentralized or progressively decentralized is, and lots of philosophical questions that have to do with the core tenets of Web3 and how to build without sacrificing UX are, all big questions and challenges.
When it comes to creating incentives, what kind of bootstrapping incentives are in place for JPEG to ensure trust and quality in the curation process?
So none for now. But none, because we don't want to start with the wrong foot.
Okay.
We learn from that, from DAOs. But however, people are already using JPEG for professional purposes. We have seen art fairs being set up on JPEG. We have seen professional, incredible galleries as well, incredible NFT exhibitions that have been in Miami, Basel. And so there's a really good user base that understands that, we need cultural infrastructure, and we're very happy to take on JPEG and to choose us for their incredible projects. And we have incredible people in our community that are constantly trying to surface content, whether it's for writing their essays, or whether it is for showing their expertise with or joining a conversation without owning the NFTs. We always have people that are really wanting to create things with JPEG. So we don't think that that's going to be hard. And to be honest with you, like incentives can be retroactive. Everyone has learned that, starting with Uniswap, with the Uniswap airdrop in 2020. So we expect people to be curating, to be honest, just because they will expect a retroactive compensation, and that will most likely happen. Also, we will have reputation points, which are not money, but they mean stuff.
For sure.
They mean a lot for people.
Yeah. So by gamifying the system without really introducing token rewards just yet, I can also see, based off looking at JPEG's site, there actually are really high quality curators, on there. And I really appreciate the format of curating certain JPEGs and certain NFTs, but also creating like thought-provoking like written pieces around them, right? So if you look at some of like the curators that you highlight in their pages, I think it's actually really unique. It almost feels, I don't want to say like blog-esque, but it has that museum elegant vibe to it for the product itself. And that also, after seeing that, it got me thinking like you can absolutely use the infrastructure that you're building to build a more Web3 native Pinterest, for example, right? And create like
Totally.
this more of like a gallery feed, right? Just using the metadata that you guys are kind of like orchestrating and whatnot. I want to talk more about applications because I think the most exciting thing for me hosting this podcast is trying to understand, okay, there's infrastructure, but the real use cases are going to come when people build on top of this infrastructure, right? You mentioned a few use cases in the past. We just brought up like a Web3 native Pinterest. What are some of the more not obvious use cases or applications that you're excited to see some a founder or a group of people experiment with using the JPEG protocol?
I'm very excited about anyone that's able to leverage JPEG for to inform their practice and to make money and to get better at their job, and just, to have it as a tool. A portfolio would be very exciting when it comes to artists. As a matter of fact, some artists have already been, ordering some of their like very early works using JPEG, and then they list them through Sora so they can sell them in JPEG as well. I'm very excited about anything that allows people to use JPEG as a canvas, as a portfolio, as a blogging platform. Why don't you? Which is something that our community manager William has been doing really well as well. I'm also excited about people that think out of the box, and they can order their collections of essays, for example, on JPEG, or there's property titles being created with NFTs, so that's also possible. There's use cases with NFTs and decentralized science that will need NFTs to, maybe record a particular, components of the research. So, anything that serves to support all of that without needing for them to use, Squarespace or any blogging platform, that's fantastic. I'm really looking forward to see more people do stuff with the data, with the exhibition data. Just to give you an idea, when you're actually checking out a Sotheby's or Christie's NFT auction, you will see that they do a really good job at establishing all the provenance. In NFTs, they do a little bit of a shittier job with that, because their provenance is not very interesting. But if you have time, go and check the amazing work that they do with traditional art provenance. It's incredible. It's a story. So we hope that people are able to use this on-chain history of provenance that we're building, because through JPEG, and this already happens, you're able to see when it was minted, who owned it, who bought it last, and who curated it as well. And the more times you curate it, the more times the provenance grows. So all all of that is invaluable data that auction houses that have been there for a very long time have monetized and do very well. So we're looking to see other people, like include these kind of like precious data into their business as well. So really anyone from trading analysts to historians.
Got it. So what actually tends to be like the business model for that type of creator? So if I'm a curator or if I'm a historian, like how would I actually monetize something like this? What does that look like? And it may vary per creator, but I'm hoping maybe you could give some examples.
For sure. So the first one that comes to mind is the art advisor. I don't know if you have ever heard of an art advisor. Basically, they are people that go to high net worth individuals and they tell them what to buy. And these people already know a lot about the history of a particular piece. There are art advisors in NFTs,
Right.
believe it or not, and they're really, but I think that we're gonna be able to make their job easier. Another one is the NFT archaeologists. We discussed this in our little sync before. Basically, NFT archaeologists are focused on early NFTs and proto NFTs. And their job is essentially to look at the documentation online, social media forums. Reddit is a really good one. And a lot of time looking at Etherscan to find out when things are minted and when things are transferred. But they only focus on the digging aspect, on I found this grail, now I'm selling it to you and I'm making a deal, to get a premium. Art advisors also get a premium for, their advisory services. And so we hope that we're going to be able to add more contextual data as well to both. And yeah, I think those are really good examples.
I think those are solid examples because there's a little bit of a curator in all of us. I'll reference like music NFTs, for example, which are really, really hot right now. There's a lot of collectors that like to find the early artists that they recommend it to their friends to kind of buy, right? And to co-invest with and co-collect with. And I think there's a level of provenance that's required to kind of analyze to understand what makes a music NFT more valuable than other music NFTs, for example. What makes one artist more valuable? So there's already a lot of that happening, right? So from what I understand, JPEG is actually building the foundation, the tools to enable a more efficient system, right? To have more confidence in your curation. So that's really cool. And I really align with that because I feel like I play a certain role in trying to understand the music NFTs that are out there and the music artists that are out there, and even like the digital artists that are out there too. So that makes a lot of sense. But I know a lot of platforms that are, let's say, building in the Web3 music landscape. And I guess also in the NFT ecosystem in general, there's an underlying problem, which you also talked about earlier, MP, is the metadata problem, right? And trying to kind of like make sense of all the noise on chain. And this is something that I talked about with, I think it was Eric Reppel, head of data at Zora. He's like, maybe there needs to be some type of like blockchain consortium of some sort where we create standardization for how people write their smart contracts or the entire infrastructure that kind of pertains to everything that's happening behind the hood. What is your kind of point of view on how to solve this metadata problem? What does that really look like to you?
There's a really fun meme about standards that, once you create one, then everyone wants to create their own. So they actually don't never work. That said, I just wanted to mention that meme. I actually do believe in standards. I worked previously with a computer scientist team, and I do think they're helpful. I do think what Zora proposes, and also the Herculean efforts that they have been doing to index NFTs are gonna be really are already extremely necessary. But anything about building standards and creating consortiums will affect the NFTs that we'll be creating from that point onwards. And of course, we don't even know that whether those standards are going to happen or not. There has been attempts on Ethereum. It's very hard. People end up like chasing their own selfish interests. But I believe that instead of, if the standards don't work, actually building infrastructure like JPEG or like Sora, and understanding the concept of, public good, infrastructure as public good, is going to be really helpful as well. Because Sora is also working retroactively to try to, better index, and, to try to sort of fix that metadata by indexing in a better way. And we're working on creating a different strata, but towards the same goal. And of course, I would love to have standards, but they take a lot of time. They take a lot of coordination. Humans are not great at coordination. I don't know if you know that. And sometimes when the coordination is incentivized, that also doesn't go quite right. So I'm more optimistic about teams like Sora and JPEG building, public goods that everyone can use, that are decentralized, that are open source, and that are accessible to everyone. And I guess that people will want to contribute because, Web3 should be, if you are contributing to Web3, if you're getting money from Web3, if the creator economy of Web3 has actually benefited you, then you might as well give something back by, being an active contributor, not only an extractor, because it's not about it's not about monetizing, but it's also about building in, collectively.
I love that. I think that's a mic drop moment, and that leaves me off to my final question. Okay. We're at a state right now where a lot of creators, they've already minted their first, at least their first NFT. Of course, many haven't even touched NFTs yet. But for those who have touched NFTs, who've started building an on-chain community, a collector base, maybe they're approaching their second drop. How should they be thinking about on-chain data as a way to further grow their community, potentially monetize their community, and just kind of outlive this bear market that we're all in? What do you recommend?
I think everyone should try to educate themselves about the platforms that they're minting on. That's the main thing. It's not you don't have to think as a creator or about on-chain data, because it's already hard enough for you as a creator to do your work. And I think it's very unkind to put all the responsibility on the creator's hands. The platforms should do much better. What happens with, for example, provenance in platforms like Nifty Gateway, where it's very opaque, even if it's Ethereum, cannot happen. And people can see that already. You as a creator, if you're minting on Nifty Gateway, you can already see that, you can't really easily find your NFTs. You can't go to OpenSea so easily and, find your creations. So you should pay attention, because to how the works are tracked, how the information is readily available on a website, whether it's Etherscan links, OpenSea links, the way that they work, if the platform is open source or closed source, everything, that's what you should be looking. If the platform that you are working with has your best interests and the interests of your work first, than creating a closed garden, because the problems happen when people can't see things, when people can't see where are their images stored, where is their music stored, where where's the transaction that certifies that was bought by a legit collector and not by the marketplace, and many other things. So if you choose the platforms that are open source, decentralized, and that are accessible and easy to everyone with regards to information, I don't think you have to think about the where on-chain data per se. If you think about it, that's great, but you don't have to.
Okay. I think that's a great place to end off. MP, you rock. Keep at it. We're gonna have to do this again sometime soon. But before I let you go, where can we find you? Where can we find JPEG? Shill it away.
So JPEG is JPEG dot space. That's our website. The Twitter is really hard because we decided to go with a bunch of underscores, and it's insane that we did it, but I love it. So just go to our website, jpg.space. And if you want to find me on Twitter, I am quite active there as well. I am at MP, the real MVP. It's an old, it's an old one. I don't brag like that. And yeah, that's about it.
Amazing. Till next time.